Loading.
All right, here we go. Back again. Another podcast. Fill Your Cup podcast. This week we're missing the man, the myth, the legend himself, Spence Crosby. So it's just gonna be Professor Illwill and Tyler Wellness back at it again, man, this week.
Yep. Here for another week. Glad to be here though with you and diving into some amazing topics and just chatting and hanging up, catching up.
Absolutely, man. So yeah, I didn't even think to ask you before we started recording. Like, do you want to do maybe like a little bit of a recap, like how your week was, and just because I know things are always moving pretty fast for you.
Yeah. Do you want to go first for your week?
Okay, yeah, sure. It's nothing too crazy, man. You know, training clients, just still putting out content. No crazy new developments really for me as of lately. Just kind of doing what I do, training clients, and just putting out the motivational message wherever I can, man.
Yeah, absolutely. That's hey. There's nothing else to do it, but to do it. It's like you know what steps to do, and it's just a matter of tuning in and doing the work. And I see you on your stories consistently posting. It's good to that's how you build in the personal brand. Just being there, giving them tips, showing your stretches, showing your workouts. It's growing.
Yeah, man, I'm doing. We did a little bit of work, like side hustle job work with the homie Dom, so that was kind of cool. Me and Aiden.
Oh yeah,
Yeah, that was pretty much it for my week. Kind of
heck yeah.
it's been a couple of weeks actually since we've hung out. We normally hang out, me and you, more in person. I haven't been saying you much. I imagine we've both been busy, so
Yeah, it's weird. Like we used to have like the Wednesdays and the Saturdays and the Sundays, and then maybe like do a hustle with Dom or something or like whatever. So it'd be a lot more during the week. This week for me, uh, haven't been like where I'd normally be because I'm in a different like. It's been a lot going on with the family. You know what I'm saying? Especially since like what I mentioned the last week or the last 2 weeks ago.
yeah,
Had the memorial service and everything, and like there's a lot of things going on. That's all I can really say right now, publicly. Um, just it's a lot of weird stuff. But in dealing with it, still, doing client work, if I have meetings and stuff scheduled, I'll still show up for it and like knock it out and do it. But I haven't been doing a lot of the extracurricular client rounds, going around and checking on things and making extra meetings and stuff. It's been more like spending the time with the family when they need it, um, taking care of stuff like that. Uh, One of my friends, their car was totaled, so I've been helping them, giving her rides from work and back home and wherever else. Just being a good friend as well. Um, and at the same time, been consistently posting the stories using like the travel in between things as opportunity to make videos. Um, my workouts, I've been doing just the quick version a lot, which I put on my social media already, just because again, like the time is all over the place. Um, and let's see what else, because it's been a lot mentally that's been going on, and so like the day to day has been pretty nice that we had routines and systems already set. So it's like just continue the habits while fighting through all the other things that go on. You know what I'm
yeah,
saying?
right. Okay, I can dig it. Yeah, I think I saw you on your story. It was like yesterday. You had like an outfit on, like some
Oh yeah.
something. What was that? Is that something you were doing, like a memorial, or what was that?
No, so the memorial was on Wednesday, and that was the next day, Thursday, and I was the at like a ball, so I was the Queen's Guard. And
Mm,
so, yeah, so I'm like, there's a lot of pictures of it and stuff like that. It's really cool. It was a really fun event. Everyone's like dancing, swing dancing. There was sword fighting. There was a duel. There was a whole bunch of dope stuff. And like, it was so needed, especially like with all the other mental things that are going on. It was like a release, and it was fun. But
nice.
but yeah, that was what that was. And people kept thinking it was like a wedding or something. And I was like, well, that was like what, like 1700s, 1800 style attire. I don't think people in
Yeah, I was
modern
like,
times.
what is he wearing? What is it? I would imagine.
Yeah, had a
Imagine what.
sword and everything. It was dope.
Yeah, it sounds fun. Always good to have some fun in between the busy entrepreneur hectic lifestyle, man.
100%. And you saw that little edit I made today, or I
I
made
did
it a
sound
couple days ago.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah, I was like, I saw like that is a trend. People are using that sound and those cuts and like trying to make things like sound appealing, and then it's like not. And so I was like, oh yeah, I'll make one. It was
Yeah.
funny.
Big Mills, I'm a boss. Featuring about, I think I saw one that was like job security, or like you're gonna work at a job, and then it's like, oh, we have great benefits and like
Yep, yep.
so you kind of mix it up. You made it like an entrepreneur style. Like, oh,
Yeah,
start your own business. They said it'll be great.
yeah. Said I think one of my favorite parts of the edit was when it was like the sandwich and it was like breakfast, lunch, and dinner, but you got no money in your wallet. It was like early startup problems, like
On that old college ramen diet,
right. But speaking of food though, yeah, I know you had mentioned that there is benefit in like growing your own and kind of like, starting a garden or like, supplying for yourself. And I was just curious, what all you meant by that, or like what all you can maybe share when it
Right.
relates to
So yeah, just kind of like starting your own farm. I've been kind of interested in it, and just kind of seeing, not really starting your own farm. And I guess you are starting your own farm in a sense, but just more or less a garden.
that.
Starting a garden, growing the foods that you eat regularly, and then that way you can kind of cut down on the cost of going and buying all these foods, and then you can just pick the foods that you enjoy most right out of your backyard. I think that if you have the land for it, if you have the opportunity to do it, I think it's a great thing to do. And just kind of learning more about that is kind of interesting to kind of dive into it and see not only the benefits of that, it would be like a financial benefit, but also health wise, you would have a chance to kind of grow your own food. I know there's a lot of talk of like there's certain substances in food and different, what would you say, like pesticides that they're growing on the food. So you can kind of ensure the safety of the foods that you're getting, maybe like GMO foods, and kind of avoid a lot of the processed GMO bioengineered foods that are possibly in the supermarket. By growing your own food, you kind of know what's in it.
Hmm. Makes a lot of sense. My grandma, she had a greenhouse and a garden and everything, and they were growing their own stuff, and they'd, pull from the garden, make salads or whatever else with it. And what would you recommend though, personally, for people that might not have like a whole greenhouse set up, like if we're in Michigan, like we are, the cold months, would you like overgrow during the warmer season, or like how would you do it,
Well, from what I'm kind of hearing and understanding, it can be as simple as tilling a small portion of your yard off, getting the quality soil in there, and then picking maybe a couple of vegetables that you would like, or a couple of vegetables and fruits that you would like. You like something easy for me, I think, would just be like strawberries and blueberries.
Mm,
I like to put those in my smoothies, salads. If I could have access to those, um, kind of just bare bones, just in my backyard, without having to go and grocery shop for them or wonder what kind of pesticides or what they're putting in the food, I think that'd be a pretty solid option. So just kind of starting with something simple, something that you eat, and just kind of starting there, starting small, and then maybe it can grow over the seasons that you grow it. Here in Michigan, it's going to be a shorter, I guess, a regular uh, growing season is going to start, in spring. You're going to go out there, till your your garden, till your land and get it all ready, and then you're going to plant some seeds, and then those seeds eventually you'll be able to harvest them around fall. And that's a traditional method of growing food that we do here in Michigan. So I'd say probably start there, start small, start with something that you enjoy yourself, something that you buy, or something that you would eat. It can be simple as herbs. And of course, you want to make sure it's something that is going to grow here well in Michigan. You're not going to try to grow like an avocado tree. That's probably not going to work.
Oh yeah, that was going to be my next question. Is like when you mentioned strawberries and blueberries specifically, I know there's places up near like Traverse City area or up more north where they're growing strawberries and you know strawberries, cherries, and stuff like that. So I was just curious if there's like specific requirements that you might have to meet in order to be able to grow specific fruits and vegetables. Um, which obviously some climates like we won't be able to do and have Michigan oranges.
Nah,
But
probably not.
yeah, but like I guess again, knowing it's basic things you probably already eat, are there lists of like some pretty universal vegetables that people could grow and it wouldn't really matter too much on like their climate and environment?
Yeah, for here in Michigan, I'd say I see a lot of people growing, like I had said, like strawberries, blueberries. You probably try watermelon. I see a lot of those. A lot of people growing watermelons, cucumbers, tomatoes, onions. You could even break down some simple things like cilantro, some herbs if you wanted to grow. Probably that's probably going to be just about it. But I mean, with a simple Google search, I'm sure you could pop up like, "Hey, like what foods can I grow here in Michigan?" And it'd probably give you a list of foods, and then you can pick from those foods like which ones you want to start growing. But like I would say, probably want to start small first of all.
Yeah.
Maybe one to two things, not a bunch of plants and a bunch of things that you can't maintain. Different plants and different uh, requirements from those plants. So if you start maybe one to two plants, not a lot of them, and just kind of spend more energy and time and be able to develop those more so that they grow good and you get a good harvest, I think that'd be a good start.
That makes a lot of sense. Especially again, like if you become successful in one season, it'll be a lot easier to kind of figure out, what worked and what didn't work and like kind of apply those same things to other kind of universal fruits and vegetables. Like I know like even cucumbers are a good one that you could grow potentially.
Yep. Yep.
Uh,
Yeah.
have you started growing any? Sorry, I
I
didn't
have
mean.
not. I have not. I just thought it was interesting topic. I know Spence and I were pretty into like herbs and looking into herbalism. Uh, I believe the guys I was listening to on a podcast, they were talking about a lot of teas that they were growing. One in particular that is it's an adaptogenic herb. It's called tulsi. They
Tulsi?
grow it. Yeah, they grow it in India. Tulsi. It's an adaptogenic herb, which basically means that it just helps your body adapt to stress. It kind of brings you back into homeostasis. So if you're like super stressed out, and you drink some of this tulsi, it's also called holy basil. It's a little easier name to say.
Holy basil or Tulsi?
Holy,
Gotcha.
holy basil. So instead of basil, it's called holy basil. It's coming from like India, which is well known for like their Ayurvedic medicine, lots of medicines and lots of natural things that you can that they grow and then things that you can consume as medicine. So that was one of them that they were talking about. I thought was kind of interesting. Like, man, if I could grow some tulsi, which I think for some of those plants they had a requirement or it had a certain climate that it had to grow in, but I think they were growing stuff like in Iowa.
Like what? Sorry.
In Iowa that they were growing it.
Oh.
So I mean, I think that's kind of like American farmland. I think that's kind of like Midwest style. I think that if it could grow there, you probably could grow it just about anywhere in the states, maybe.
Probably.
Right?
I was also curious too, as we're talking about growing and stuff. There was a there was a girl that I followed on TikTok for years. I still do. She's just changed her content a lot, and she's now buying up farmland and also using it to build facilities to grow microgreens.
Mm.
So my question, I guess, to you about microgreens, have you looked into that and like how those would work, or what would you recommend? Like, I guess thought wise, would you do an external outside garden, or would you do one that you can use grow indoor, like the microgreens and stuff like that?
Um, Microgreens. I really don't know too much about microgreens. I've heard of them. I imagine they're like these small little sprouts of greens. I think
Mm-hmm.
if I can think of the name of it, um, well, it's like a green drink or something. They say it's very expensive and they consume it. It's like a health thing.
Mm.
Um, but yeah, I'd imagine something like microgreens you probably could grow inside, maybe under like an LED light. I'm not so sure how they do outside because I know it's probably a delicate plant and it probably needs some sort of protection from bugs because I know bugs would probably be attracted to it and like to eat that. It'd probably be easy for them to eat that small defenseless plant. So
Mm.
if you could, you probably could do something similar to what your friend is doing. Is growing these plants inside, maybe within a small tent, or yeah, inside a small tent, or create a greenhouse environment with an LED light. And I think you can yield probably some of those microgreens. I'm not too familiar with those though.
Yeah, no, it's all good. I was just curious, like, if some of the fruits and vegetables that you've looked into as far as like growing with an external garden, the concept of like growing the microgreens and having an indoor garden, would you be able to do the same thing with those? So if you had like a whole setup with the LEDs or a whole room and stuff, would you be able to like grow indoor tomatoes or indoor cucumbers and strawberries, blueberries?
I would say so. It'd be like a winter project, probably more. I think you'd kind of rather to grow the plants outside, seeing as you get natural sun lighting. So if you're growing plants inside, you're gonna have to pay for the electricity,
Mm,
which can get expensive. So if you could grow it outside in kind of a natural environment with a good soil, that's going to be one of the most important things too. A good quality soil, and I think that's kind of an interesting point too. Is like the soil that the food grows in, it has a microbiome very similar to the human body. Like our bodies, our guts are our microbiome. So by ensuring that the microbiome of your farmland soil is good, that's gonna make sure that the fruits are growing properly, but also within the human body, we share some similarities to plants and having a microbiome with bacteria and all these things that need to be taken care of so that the human grows healthily as well.
that makes a lot of sense, especially with the background of one of my clients. They owned dispensaries. So I got to see them grow and what they put in the soils and stuff. And they were talking about CalMag, which is calcium and magnesium and all these things, and how you can create what's called live soil. So basically, you put in all these nutrients into the soil, and once the nutrients are to a certain level, you don't have to do anything else. And the plant itself will grow into the soil, and the soil itself is like feeding back into plants, and it's like creating this whole ecosystem. And all you got to do is, pick the fruits when they arrive.
You know, yeah, that soil is going to be important. And in the podcast I was listening to, they're kind of talking about how a lot of things make up the soil and make it quality. Having like the correct amount of minerals, like you had mentioned, calcium, magnesium, probably potassium, um, and even it comes down to like the living organisms, bacteria within the soil, such as even like worms.
Mm,
Worms are going to gravitate and kind of live inside of a good quality soil. So you kind of want to make sure that your soil is having worms in it, which I thought was kind of
mm.
interesting. The worms are they actually create the microbiome and they're a part of that microbiome.
That's interesting.
Yeah.
Uh, Kind of getting at all this is reminding me of an idea because at the cafe, there's this there's a house down like a couple blocks down from it, and they have like an external garden or like a community garden. And so Emmett and I, we had talked a little bit about an idea. It would be like, oh, it'd be such a great idea if we had a community garden in a way, like not like the size that they have, but even bigger. Maybe you invest in having green homes. And so then people can come in and like buy a little plot of land where they can plant. And if they are coming in and basically using the facility, planting into this community garden, they get, to use or have other of the resources that are growing around. Like, so if I'm growing strawberries and you're growing watermelons and someone else is growing blueberries and cilantro, we get to have like dibs on things because we're all growing this together. And it would cut off on the overhead cost of any individual having to supply the electricity or the facility of the green homes and all that kind of stuff. And as we were talking here about building your own garden, it reminded me of like, well, that's an asset that now you would then have and you can do almost anything with.
Yeah, very true. Assets and liabilities, it's important to have more assets than you do have liabilities. And if you could find a way to produce your own food, that would definitely be an asset for you, your family, maybe other community members or other members within the community. And then if you could create something that makes it so a bartering system, so it's like, hey, I grow these blueberries, you grow the strawberries, let's do a trade. And then it's kind of like you get to share the wealth of the different crops without having to grow that crop yourself.
100%. And that it's kind of interesting though, because like when we think about a grocery store in general, we're bartering with our money. So it's like we're laboring away, or if you have investments that are paying you over time, you're then earning income. You're going to the store, you're bartering the income you made to get food, and then they're going to go take the money and then pay workers and pay for more food or pay for more resources that they can then continue to grow. And so if we could kind of take that concept, like you said, and now bring it to a more community level, you can literally work in this garden to be able to feed your family and feed yourself and be self-sustainable without having to go labor off hard jobs or whatever it might be. And again, as we already know, technology is advancing to a level where Elon Musk mentioned that he's releasing the robo-taxi feature on the Tesla cars. And what that is accumulatively right now, all of the Teslas in existence that have the full self-driving have driven over 1 billion miles. So they have a lot of data. And basically now you're able to turn your own car into a robo-taxi that drives people around without you being in it. And you can make money from it. And so you can have your car for hire. You get it, you drive to work, and then you make your car go to work.
Yeah, that'd be sick. That'd be pretty sick. That's an asset. Most vehicles are liabilities. That would be an asset.
Right. And so that's what I'm saying is like, if we have like multiple assets like this building together, like, oh, you have that type of vehicle that goes and drives itself and it's now a taxi and works for you, bringing in income. And then you're at that time where your car is working for you and earning income. You are building this asset like a community garden where you have food. So now your car is earning enough income to supply your rent or your electric bill or whatever else you need or have. And then you're able to supply your own food. And then it's just slowly thinking what you spend your money on currently, how can we replace that with assets that provide those things? And then eventually we'll be free from the matrix, which is you have to go and slave away for basic living rights.
Right. Finding a way to not necessarily work for your freedom, but to have freedom with less work, say, I guess. That's an interesting concept, though, that robo-taxi. That's kind of a concept I've seen in a lot of 90s futuristic movies. The taxi, the robo-taxi pulls up and then you drive in it, tell it where to go and it takes you there. It's kind of interesting. So
Mm-hmm.
it's going to be interesting to see how that develops.
Right. I was like, the only thing I was thinking is it'd be amazing if it was like a secondary vehicle that you had, but if it's your primary, they probably just like Uber will have like rules where if you get, or even Turo, where like, oh, you smoked in my car and I can tell, so now there's an extra fee, because like that's the only thing I would personally be like against. I know how I would treat a vehicle, even if it's not my own. I wouldn't, put my feet up on the dash covered in mud and all this stuff, and I would, I would be the same way I treat my own car, I would treat that vehicle, and I know people don't do the same. You know what I'm saying? So that's my only
Like
gripe.
cigarette real quick.
Yeah, yeah.
let me smoke this crack, and then we're gonna have intercourse.
In the back seat.
In my
Hey.
Tesla, what?
Yeah. So I don't know, but speaking about like assets, have you done any more crypto or looked into it at all?
No, not really. I'm just kind of holding my assets right now and just kind of seeing what it does. It's around that Bitcoin is going around that 68,000, 69,000, 70,000 range. Um,
Mm-hmm.
so I'm just kind of curious to see what it's going to do. It's going to go back. I think it's probably going to go up from here, maybe, I'd imagine. So yeah, I haven't really been buying anymore. Just kind of seeing it, watching it, and hoping that it goes up.
Yeah. I would just like personally, I've been watching it as well, and I wish that I had bought more when it was so low. I wish. I know I'm, saying these things out loud. Then I'm like, man, well, if I wish that, then I'm gonna only in the future wish that I bought it at 68K. I'm gonna wish I bought it at 70K. So like I started to change my strategy, and basically all of the altcoins, I sold most of my crypto positions that I earned like 800%, 300%, 500, so many other percentages. I converted it over into Ethereum and into Bitcoin and into other um, like off Ethereum. Like I said in the Discord chat, I've sent a couple that I'm heavily in. I still have several thousands of those coins. And over time, what I had done is I reverted back to another strategy that I mentioned in TikTok, like back 3 years ago when we were doing the masterminds at Austin's and at Jay's and stuff, where I talked about having a stable coin which supplies you, which you're always adding on to. So like, hey, I got fiat cash buying in, right? And then I got my asset that I'm investing in. Maybe it's Ethereum, maybe it's Bitcoin, and then I've got another stable coin that I sell to. So this one I'm bringing in, maybe it's like $50 a week or whatever, $100 a week or whatever. You got it in there. And you look at all your crypto positions that you want to keep and invest in long term because you believe in those projects, which primarily I've stuck now down to just a few that I can really watch. And then I maybe kept $10 in some of those where I like really made out, and converted it all over. So I like $10 positions. Anytime those go over $10, so it's like, oh, it's $11. Oh, it's $12. It's $15. I'll sell the abundance. So I'll sell like the five for the $2 extra, and I'll put it into the stable coin that supplies me. So then I'll take from that supply, and anytime Bitcoin or Ethereum dips down, I'll buy more. And then anytime my big other ones go up, I sell that to Ethereum and Bitcoin. So I say I have $100 position in like Flare. Flare is on the Ethereum network, so it helps out that I'm doing the strategy. So Flare might go up. Let's say it's $100 position, so it goes up by 10%. So I make $10, which happens pretty often. So I'll take the $10 out. I'll put it into Ethereum, and then my Flare position dips, and it says I have $90 now. So then I'll take from my supply coin, which is fiat cash in, and I'll buy a $10 new position, filling up back to 100. So then once Flare goes back up another 5%, 10%, 20%, I'll take that profit and send it over to Ethereum. So my Ethereum position's growing, my Bitcoin position's growing. I'm watching these small altcoins that I do believe in as well, based on what they do. And as they increase, I'm just slowly liquidating that out and putting it somewhere else,
Yeah.
which sounds
That's
very
a
complicated.
that's a pretty in-depth concept. Yeah. Yeah, it's I think I've tried that a bit. I find that I have better luck when I just buy it and kind of buy it for the low and kind of hold it. Honestly, man, I don't know.
Yeah,
I kind of think that the coins are going to be useful in the future.
I believe that
So I
too.
think that if
Yeah.
you could buy in at a discounted rate now and then hold until they become more expensive, then I think that is kind of like a solid game plan. I don't think you could really go wrong. But then there's also a slight justification and the thought that maybe it's like market manipulation and that they're just kind of getting people to buy into it, and then it goes all the way up and then people start buying it a lot and then they sell all of it and then you kind of stuck holding that. So
Yeah.
I think it's a little bit of both, honestly. I think it's going to be like a long-term asset also, but they're also using the hype and using possible market manipulation and people who are holding more of these coins by triggering to buy more and to sell more in a large quantity that's kind of subjecting the price.
Mhm. And that's what, like, I guess, because I'm on that same boat. I 100% agree that, like, holding them long term is definitely the best bet, especially if they're ones with actual utility. But, like, say, for example, when we got into the Pepe, like, there's not much utility per se right now with Pepe coin. Not saying that there won't be in the future, but knowing that the mindset is that it is a meme coin and everyone bought it like crazy. Like I did this with my Shiba. I had like $25 in it that turned into 100 in one wallet, and then another one I have like 5 million Shiba in there, and then I'm just holding it. So I'll keep like certain quantities of the meme coins out there and just let them go to the moon, because I know people are gonna, when they learn more about crypto, then they're gonna eventually buy certain meme coins and the value of my meme coins are gonna go up. But like let's say a Coinbase wallet, which isn't necessarily the best place to put all your money. There's a lot of options on there. Every day there are new things popping up. So if I'm able to put like $10 on one, even if I don't research it, or $50 on one, or 20, whatever a person can afford, you put it on the coin with the bet that because it announces it to all the users that that investment's going to go up. So I'll put some money in it, and then over time, like I did this with Proppy. Proppy is really cool because it's like it allows you to buy homes in Florida right now as an NFT, or you can tokenize your deed. So I was watching the intro or the information videos on it. I learned about it and I was like, oh, this is really dope. I should probably buy some. So I bought like $100 worth. And then within the next 2 weeks, it increased. I didn't initially actually buy $100 worth. I bought like 20. Then it started increasing like crazy. I was like, oh, I need to hop on this. And I bought 50, and then I jumped up to 100. But in the next 2 week time frame from the time where I learned about it, and Coinbase was also telling everyone about it by having you can earn Proppy token by watching these videos, it went up like 200%.
Wow.
So yeah, so that's what I'm saying. So if I know that the group think mentality is when I have access to X, now I'm going to buy it when I learn about it. So get in early. People are going to learn about it. They're going to buy it, which is also naturally going to raise the price. So then I'll take profits out of it using my basic strategy. And then at the end of the day, I'll keep a minimum quantity because it does have utility. But I'm not going to like heavily invest all into it now. Kind of like stocks. You hear the terminology, buy the news, sell the hype. So when you hear the news like Reddit IPO, it IPO'd and it was like $40. I also knew like normally when you IPO, it opens really high and then it dips like crazy. And you never know when that dip's going to happen. It IPO'd, it doubled in value. It went up to like 80 something, maybe 90. I haven't really looked at it lately. And then it started to actually have the final sell off. So I wish that I could have done calls and puts on it because I would have rode the call up, sold at the top, put a put in, and went down to wherever it went. But I know that people will buy the hype, and because they were talking about it heavily in all these different media outlets, that was also naturally going to raise the price.
Yeah, yeah. A lot of investing is kind of paying attention to worldly news, paying attention to what war is going on, what's going on with the oil, what's going on with the energy, what's going on with these coins, how are they being used, for what purpose. So if you can kind of tap into that type of news, that definitely is going to give you a better concept and a grasp of what coins and where you can use your fiat money to make more money.
Mm-hmm. 100%. And I wish that my younger self knew what I know now about stocks and stuff because, man, like back in the day, I would make a certain amount from like stocks going up and me investing over time. Like when I turned $10 into 1,000 doing Snapchat puts, and I was just learning Snapchat puts at the time, and I was like, "Oh, this is working. It's going down." So I started to buy more, and I sold what I earned, and then bought more. I should have bought the stock itself when it was really low because then it went up like it was like less than $1 and it went up to now being over $50 and it's a heavy platform that I use almost daily to communicate with and like to grow my audience. So thinking on that term, it's like, okay, if I buy up these assets that I do believe in the future, you can take out when you have a minimum amount. So like Robinhood is $2,000 minimum. M1 is $2,000 minimum. When you have a $2,000 minimum portfolio, you can take out what's called margin. And this is getting complicated, and it's not investment advice for any means, but this is good stuff. Um, Rather than selling my positions for profit, I could have taken out margin and used the margin for my usage of whatever I had to do. And then if my positions dip down below a certain percent, I think it's like 30% of maintenance. Some are 50%. It really just depends on how much risk the brokerage is willing to take on. But I can still keep my assets, my investment, and then also still pay a bill or do whatever it is extra. So like people that want to get out of debt, it's like you don't have to sell your crypto positions, you don't have to sell your stock positions. You have to build up a stock position, preferably in a dividend portfolio, and then borrow the cash value against it, have the dividends pay down the principal over time, and then use that cash value to pay off your debt. So now you don't owe at the copious high rates of interest.
Right. Yeah, it's
So,
definitely a world to dive into, and I definitely think that it's of value. I think more people should learn about it. It kind of disheartens me the amount of people who are like scared of it, or they just don't mess with it at all. And they just work their job, and they just like, oh, like I don't want to mess with it. It's just scammy, and like I need to hear from a professional. But just kind of an experiment and kind of playing with a little bit of money that you can afford to lose. I think it's well worth it. Maybe you're spending this money on, I don't know, say like alcohol, or I know I spent a lot of money on alcohol and drugs in my youth. Had I spent that money on things more valuable, like here, it's like buy this probably like $50 Apple stock at the time instead of this pizza or whatever it was. Um, it's definitely worth putting a little bit of money that you can play with and learning with it, whether you lose it or you learn from it. So it just goes to anybody out there. It's a whole world that you can get into. And I've made money off the stock market. That was one of the things in 2020, just playing around. They had like the Reddit forum. I dive in there and I had a little bit of money to play with. And they were like, hey, we're gonna put a call on this stock. It was like a glass stock. At the time, they were breaking the glass because it was COVID. It was C-19, and
Yep.
there was what was it? The riots that were going on, and I made use of that information of that news, and it made me profit. And it was like $1,000, and I was like, wow, this. Once I kind of made that money, I was like, wow, this is fruitful, and this actually works.
Right. It's crazy. Like Reddit itself is a whole world. I've recently like dived into more of the communities on there because when you told me about the glass stocks, I think that was probably Wall Street Bets, right?
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah. And so I was heavily thinking that the only real like stock stuff on Robinhood or on Reddit was Wall Street Bets, but they have a lot of sub communities. There's this community of people who literally make millions of dollars by investing into long-term ETFs that pay out dividends. There's there's another where people are just trying to create a dividend portfolio that's enough to live off from, you what
Mm.
dividend stocks to invest in, and a whole bunch of other things. So I've started to like invest in or like at least follow those Reddit forums so I can educate myself on more potential stocks to put in my portfolio.
Oh yeah. Yeah, it's definitely a good use of information, a good place to find information. And you said they have a stock, so it's probably a good stock to buy. You said it's
Right?
dipped after, because I know they do kind of do their initial public offer, and then it's like if you buy it that day, it's almost like you're guaranteed to kind of lose money somehow because it goes up and then it goes back down and then it kind of settles out and then like a couple years later it goes up. A lot of
Yep.
it's patience. If you're patient enough to say, hey, this is a good stock, I'm willing to invest in it long term, then it doesn't really matter what price you buy it at. But it's always good to buy at the cheapest price that you can get it, which is hard. It's
Mhm.
hard to time the market.
Right. And that's why they say it's time in the market. And I've really realized that too, because like one thing I was doing is as Tesla was making all of its advancements, there's always companies that will follow the leader. Tesla is leading the electric vehicle industry, but there is also Rivent and Lucid Air. And so I invested, again, not investment advice, but I invested in Lucid Air and lost a lot because like it was a high price. But time in the market is key. So as it's going down, I'm acquiring more assets. And as I buy more assets as the price goes down, I'm doing dollar cost averaging, which is making my average cost per share less. So now I own more shares that cost less, right? And then once they decide, because Lucid Air is another electric vehicle company, once they decide, I'm seeing their ads everywhere. I haven't been on their websites or anything, so they're heavily marketing right now. Once they start popping, it's only a matter of time right now that I'm thinking because I'm seeing it in the news. I'm seeing it on ads on Instagram and all that stuff. Their stock will naturally follow the profits. And if they start to follow in the footsteps of the leader like Tesla and they start doing automatic driving and self-driving and all these other things and copying that, well, I now would be able to get a Tesla like stock at prices that Tesla was back in like 2008.
Yeah,
And so
yeah. I
that
had bought. Oh, what is it?
I said, so that's the goal.
Right. Yeah, I had bought some Tesla and I sold it, and I'm disheartened that I sold my Tesla stock. I shouldn't have sold it. Now I see it everywhere. It's going crazy.
Yeah.
That's a part of it too. You can't get emotional into where the money's going. Like you had said, like it dips, and then your first response is like, "Oh, it dipped. Let me sell it and get what money I have left of it," which is not a good logical. I guess you're trying to think logical, but it's more emotional. It's like,
Yeah.
oh man, I'm losing. Let me take out my loss, and then now you've lost money. You know,
Yeah. Right.
if it's a good stock and you see it performing in the future, if you held out a little bit more and said, "Oh, it's dipping," like you said, time in the market, you get more knowledge. where it's to the point of where it's like, all right, it's dipping. Now I can buy it at a discount. Great. It's good that it's going down.
Yeah.
Where most beginners or most people they put their money in and they'll see it going down, they'll be like, oh, this is horrible.
Right.
The more people experience, the more experience that you get, people who might have money or buy it at the same price, they're like, oh, this is great. I can double down. I can afford to buy more of these assets for a cheaper price.
Mm-hmm. And that's a lesson I had to learn the hard way. Like, I also, again, it's cause and effect. I used to be the same. It'd go down. I got to preserve what I invested, like sell right now so I can still use that money later. But like, as years went on, it just learned more. And that's all it really is. It's like, you can have that. I think Warren Buffett had that strategy. He says, like, I never sell red. Or at least he said that in somewhere that I saw like a couple years back. And I was like, what does he mean by that? Well, if you continue to just buy more as the price is super low, the moment it goes up by like 0.5% and now you're green again, you sell everything, like, that's it. Like, so you can get out or you can ride it up to the top wherever you want to go. But it's just like, why would you, like, if you believe in the thing, I'm not saying do this with penny stocks, but if you believe in a thing, right, and you see long-term growth in it.
Yeah. That's good the more strategies you learn, it makes it a little easier. Like, I think we had gotten to a play, it was Bed Bath & Beyond, and it was going down, but I had some assets still. I had like $100 in there still. And you were like,
Mm-hmm.
you got told, oh yeah, you probably want to sell it because it's going bankrupt. So I set like a limit sell order for like a higher price that I saw it had hit in the past.
Yeah.
And then it went to that price and then it sold it and I was able to make an exit and I made money and everything. So it was good.
See, that's perfect. Because like it's just, again, using the data that you have available to you. The fact that it was in the news because it was going bankrupt, people were buying it because there was also speculation that other companies were going to potentially buy them and pick them up, and it didn't happen. And so it was like, you can be stuck in a world where you lost the hundreds of dollars because you thought that news was going to be right. And I think what I had did in that same time frame, because I also had a couple investments in there, I made it where I gained a positive return and I sold my initial investment out. So now the positive return is all that I had in there just in case that news was true. And so that way I would still own some assets, but it wasn't true anyway. But,
I'm not even familiar with it still. I just sold out of it and I forgot about it now.
Yeah.
Eventually
I did sell all the rest, but it was like, just again, because you never know if those rumors would actually fulfill, if another company would come in and scoop them up and then turn them into something else, or if they'll merge with another company. So I just made sure that it was basically free money, so if I lose it, I don't really care. But if it does do something that's amazing, I end up losing it. So for most of it. So
yeah, that's how it goes, But I think it's better to play and lose rather than just like not play, and then you don't know anything. At least you played and then you lost, but then you also learned. So that means in the future you're gonna have an opportunity to win.
Right. So I'm loving the investment games, and it's not just like investing in the stock market or investing in crypto markets. What I mean by that is investing in myself and investing in our peers, like having these meetings and stuff back and forth and having a podcast. Building a podcast is an investment. Building a YouTube channel is an investment. Building up a personal brand on Instagram is an investment. So even though all these crazy things are happening right now in my personal life, I'm still going to turn all the opportunity that I have into an asset that will help me in the future. And that's about it.
Oh yeah, man. That's a great way to segue into kind of like, the reason we do this is to fill our cups, to invest into ourselves. who are the most important asset, and investing into your asset class, developing yourself mentally, physically, spiritually, financially, is going to help all the others around you.
100%. Can't pour from an empty cup.
Right. So the more you learn about farming, and growing food, growing your own resources, the more you learn about taking your financial resources and growing those, whether that's in stocks and crypto, the more that you can invest your time, maybe into a YouTube channel or a podcast. Eventually, you're going to reap the fruits of the labor that you put in, and it's also going to help those around you, help yourself and those around you.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. You have anything else we want to add on today from that, or?
No, I think that was about it. It was a pretty good conversation.
100%.
And yeah, we're kind of running short on time here. So with that, I guess I'll give us an intro, or outro rather. It's your boy, Professor Illwill, CEO of New Wave Coaching. Go out into the world and be the wave of change. If you guys need fitness, nutrition, mindset coaching, tap in, get with me, and we'll give it to Tyler and let him do his own intro also.
Awesome. And Tyler Wellness here, helping open-minded individuals make themselves a priority, turn their talents and skills into additional streams of income. Don't forget, it's all up to you to decide that you're going to make your goals, dreams, and ambition a priority. That's all it is deciding, making a plan, following through, and revising that plan until you achieve the goal. So glad you tuned in, and see you guys in the next one.
All right. See you guys next week. Ashe.
Hey. Awesome.